Hello and welcome to the Saratoga Springs Planning Commission meeting for September 8th, 2022. I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If the audience would please rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The audience may be seated. Thank you. So this evening, the only planning commissioner that's not with us this evening is Commissioner Bryce Anderson, and his wife had a baby, so he is excused. The next item is public input. Time has been set aside for any person to express ideas, concerns, comments, questions, items that are not listed as a public hearing on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Looks like we only have one item that's a public hearing this evening. So if you're here to make comment on anything other than the Northern Frontier Business Park development, now would be the time that you would make that comment. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. I'll go ahead and close public input time at this time. And we'll move on to item number 4. This is a business item. Busy Bugs Preschool, Class 3 home occupation located at 418 West Rolling Sage Way. Jason Snar is the applicant, and Sam Stout will be presenting. So go ahead, Sam. And if the applicant's here, you can come up and join us.
Good evening. It's good to be with you tonight. Oh, you're fine. Awesome. Okay, so this is a Class 3 home occupation for a preschool, so Busy Bugs Preschool, and the major street access is Grandview Boulevard. It is in the R110 zone, and there's a map showing where it is. And then here is the floor plan. And the floor plan meets our standards. I believe it's a total of about 770 square feet that's going to be used for the preschool. Everything else will not be. And here shows the entrance that will be used. So they'll go from the side of the house to the back door to get in. And then this will be the traffic flow. So they'll come up north, and then they will go around the cul-de-sac and then drop off one at a time, the students of the preschool. So for the recommendation for our findings, we found that the preschool proposes to have a maximum of 10 students at the house at one time and no more than 40 students per day. The operation of the preschool will be from Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then, as I said before, the square footage meets the code. And it complies with our criteria in section 19.8, 9.13. And it is consistent and goes along with our general plan. So the conditions that we have is that the home occupation, so it's approved as shown and attached, the approved drawings. All requirements of the fire department need to be met, as well as the building department. The business license shall be obtained and maintained during the operation. No more than 10 students are allowed at the preschool at one time. No on-street parking shall be used for business purposes. Proof of fire hydrant. I did not include this in the attachment, but he did send me a picture of the correct fire hydrant, and I believe he talked with the fire marshal or the fire chief about that. And then signage is proposed with this home occupation, and they're in the process of obtaining a permit and complying with the standards if that's the case. And then the start and stop times for the classes shall be staggered by 15 minutes or more in order to minimize the traffic impacts. And I move that the Planning Commission approve the Busy Bugs Preschool, which is located at 418 West Rolling Sage Way, because it looks like it meets all the standards that apply. But the alternatives as well is to either choose to move to continue the item for a later date or to deny the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. I would like the applicant, could you state your name and address for the record? And then if you have anything to add, go ahead and add.
Jason Snar, 418 West Rolling Sage Way. No, Sam did a good job. That's a good summary. Maybe one thing is we're not going to put signage at the house. We don't need it.
Okay. All right, I will go ahead and open this to the commission for comments and questions. Commissioner McConkey and then Commissioner Kilgore. Go ahead, Commissioner McConkey.
I have two questions. The city ordinance, I believe, states that there's a maximum of 40 per day. Is that correct? I believe.
I
And
believe so.
is that the case, that there'll be a maximum of 40?
Yes, let me look here, and I have this in the application. Yes, so 40 for the entire day. There will be no more than 10 at a time, but there
And at
will.
a time, 40 per day?
Yeah, but there will be no more than 40 per day.
And that's what the plan is, correct?
Yeah, we'll actually have less than 20.
Awesome. My other question is, will the preschool also be providing childcare?
Nope, just preschool.
Awesome. Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McConkey. Commissioner Kilgore and then Commissioner Burns.
So this is an administrative process, so I just always ask, is the applicant willing to comply with all the conditions in the city staff planning packet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then I'd like to ask the city, since you've been in operation for a while already, is that right?
No, we're just starting.
Oh, I thought, okay. I thought in here it said that you've been in operation for a while and that you're expanding. That's not the case.
No, we're starting.
Okay, well, I was going to ask whether the city had received any issues from the previous, or up till now, but I guess that's not the case, so that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. Commissioner Burns.
So I live across the street from an in-home preschool as well, and I just wanted to, I don't know how to word this right. I just wanted to ask that you remind parents that when they're coming to pick up and they're running late or drop off, that's when kids are outside. So don't speed, because literally kids are outside. Yeah. So just, I see that happen a lot. I see a lot of parents that are late, and so they speed to come in to get their kids on and try and be on time. It's just not worth it. So I would just encourage that, and that's it.
Understood.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. Any other comments or questions from the commission? I will go ahead and,
Mr. Chair, really quickly.
yes, go ahead,
All right.
Commissioner Ryan.
I just wanted to thank the applicant for doing it the official way and coming before the city and doing this. It's always very much appreciated. So thank you. Wish you the best of success. Again, I guess it was an error in the packet because I interpreted that it was an expansion of your business. So best of luck then starting instead. And hopefully things go well for you. So thank you. I had one quick question on the condition 5 from the city about the maximum of the 40 people. How does the city ever enforce that and/or police that?
That would more be if we got a complaint. So if for some reason we heard that they had more than 40, then we would go. So we don't have any kind of check or anything that we do. We ask them to honor that code. If we did get some type of complaint that they were exceeding that, we would go look into it further.
Sorry, I turned it off, Mr. Thank you. Appreciate that response. And again, thank you for doing it the official channels. We really appreciate that. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I will go ahead and entertain a motion at this time.
I move that the Planning Commission approve the Busy Bugs Preschool located at 418 West Rolling Sage Way with the findings and conditions in the staff report dated September 8th, 2022.
We have a motion from Commissioner Kilgore. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Ryan. Any question on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, and the next item on the agenda, item number 5, public hearing for Northern Frontier Park Development Agreement Amendment 1, located 2250 North Redwood Road, Ashley Hadfield as the applicant, and Sarah Carroll is presenting this as the applicant here this evening. You can come up and join us.
So this is the site right here. The property is zoned office warehouse. At one point in time, we did have it allowed in the code that they could have outdoor storage, and that was changed prior to approval of their rezone. Anyhow, they didn't realize that that had been changed until recently. So one approach is to request an amendment to the development agreement. This is the plat. It's the back half of this plat. So the properties that you see on the back half there, this is their concept plan that accompanied their rezone, and this is a recent concept plan. And again, it would be the 4 lots that you're seeing on the back half that they're requesting outdoor storage. The one on the south end, they are proposing a specific user, and that would be Vinyl Industries. These are photos that we've taken from the Lehigh site of the outdoor storage at that location. In the development agreement amendment, staff did propose a maximum height of 10 feet and a solid 6-foot decorative precast fence around that. The applicant does have concerns with that proposal. They're concerned with the height limit, and then if fencing is required, they would like to use their own product. And then the applicant is proposing an amendment to that language, which this isn't in your staff report. So their proposal is that the outdoor storage be identified at the time of site plan, and that the screening be detailed with the site plan application. The challenge with that, so we have a couple of concerns. Here's just an outline of our concerns. So the Planning Commission and the City Council removed outdoor storage from the zone intentionally. Should it be allowed for one site? So that's one question to consider. If a height limit is imposed, will it be followed, or will it become an enforcement problem? That's related to staff's proposal. Related to the applicant's proposal about delaying the standards to site plan without specifying the standards leaves the door wide open. And then one thing about this site in particular, on the north end of the city, I think I have sorry, let me go back to the map really quick. So this aerial image helps. On the east side of this site, it drops in elevation. So there's a canal following the east side of the site, and the elevation changes about 20 feet, but then the property continues to slope away from this site 30, 40, 50 feet. So keep in mind that this site will be visible from all over the valley. So just something to keep in mind when discussing the options here. And then, that should say I-15. So the site is highly visible to the east, will be easy from I-15 and beyond due to elevation changes on the east side. And then Lehigh City has single-family residential adjacent to this site. So there are possible motions in here. One would be recommendation for approval, and then others would be continuance or negative recommendation. And it's open for the Planning Commission to have a discussion and make a recommendation either way.
Okay, this is well, would the applicant like to add anything to the presentation? Go ahead and state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, Ashley Hadfield, 1850 North, 1415 West in Lehigh, Utah.
Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think, Sarah, I emailed you kind of that presentation earlier today, just to kind of bring up with those renderings that I showed you when we talked this morning.
You didn't ask me to do that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. If not, I think while she's just pulling that up,
Would you be able to keep, you're not going to go over to like 10 minutes?
No,
or so?
it's like just some pictures so you can kind of see what this looks
Had
like.
somebody go for 40 minutes. That's why I'm just.
Yeah, I don't want to talk for 40 minutes, so I don't want to hear
All right,
myself
good.
that long. I think just probably key things. We've been working on this since 2019, and when we initially did this, we came in and worked with the city to kind of bring Vinyl Industries in here, who I have Robert Colton, which with Vinyl Industries, who's the president. to come in and relocate. And so at that time, this had 3 different zonings on it. It had mixed use, regional commercial, and office warehouse. And the city had expressed concerns that the mixed use would kind of become possibility to be a ghetto area in there because it was surrounded by all that retail, residential, and kind of in the back end. And so we moved to this office warehouse, located this as a good spot for Vinyl Industries, as it had a use category of building material cells with outdoor storage. And so as we worked through the process, we came here, we came to City Council, got that approved. It was shown in our initial concept that there was outdoor storage along. And then the day that we signed our DA agreement, which locked in our zoning, that the day before it had gotten approved, that was no longer a conditional use in the site. And so really what we're coming here today is just trying to get to the point where what had initially been approved with both Planning Commission and City Council is now kind of acceptable. And so I know that there's some issues with screening. If you go down, there's kind of the zone uses right there of what was initially and what we kind of agreed with. This was when we came in 2019 to kind of get this approved in 2020. So it's been a little bit of a long process. If you go down, there's kind of our concept plan now. It'd only be for these east parcels. And coming from Redwood Road, these are some older elevations, but if Sarah, if you can kind of keep scrolling, this is kind of the view from Redwood Road. And so we think it's a really great spot for it as it's shielded by the buildings, and we have 55 feet of drop. And so the actual main entrance of the city, you're not going to be able to see any of this, and it will also be shielded by the buildings in the back for the most part. So if you just want to go up, those are just kind of our main things. As for the proposed language that we submitted, I think as we were kind of getting into it, I think when we were talking back and forth with staff, who's been great with working with us, was that it's kind of starting to regulate more on a site plan methodology where we don't have that information because we're more on a concept basis. And this agreement is really for the use clause of it. And so that's why we're kind of recommending maybe moving towards something that's more site plan specific. So then we can kind of work out the detail when we actually have more data of what's going on in those individual lots per the business to make sure that they're successful that they can be.
This is a public hearing, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the mic for the public at this time. If anyone's here to make comment on this item, now's the time to do it. I want to go ahead and close the public comment at this time, and I'll open this up for the Planning Commission for their comments and questions. Commissioner Kilgore.
I don't know why, but when I was looking at the staff packet, I couldn't figure out which slots will have the outside storage. Is it all the ones on the east?
5, 6, and 7.
So the 4 lots on it.
Okay.
So they're asking for it for these 4 lots, and then they're hoping to have Vinyl Industries on this southern lot here.
Wait. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. All right, so just those 4 eastern, I guess on the right-hand side. Okay.
Could I, just to make sure that we understand correctly, like Redwood Road is on the far left, correct? So there's 3 buildings that are adjacent to Redwood Road, and then the 4 buildings or 4 lots would be behind that. Is that correct?
Right, that's correct. So these 4 are in front Redwood Road, and then there's a street here called Stagecoach Drive, and these lots here with front Stagecoach Drive.
And where's,
The canal that was mentioned is on this side here, and then the elevation change in the back of this property to the other side of the canal is about 20 feet, and then continues away even further at 20, 30, 40 feet. As you move east.
and where is the residential development?
Yeah, let me have our city map.
So I understand it was on the eastern, on the east side, but like how far into the,
And that's Lehigh, once you hit
it's
that.
Lehigh, right?
It is Lehigh City.
Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah.
If you zoom in, you'll be able to see
The homes.
So I want to hear make sure Doug gets recorded. Can you press the button? Because I'm not sure. Okay,
I'm just clarifying, if you zoom in on that, that image, you'll be able to see where the homes are being built in Lehigh currently.
but the
Or at
homes
least
are
at the
in
time of-
Lehigh, correct?
They are in Lehigh, so and we don't have anything in the ordinance about it. Our concern recently is that the city council has been mentioning the gateways to the city and the appearance in those gateways. And then the concern also is the visibility, not just for the homes directly adjacent to it, but across, you'll be able to see that from pretty far away.
Okay. Thank you for that. And then, let's see. Does the applicant have any vested rights for the outside storage? Because it happened on, I guess, based on what the applicant was saying, they got their agreement on the day, or they signed the agreement on the day that the code change was published, or, I mean?
They do not. So a concept plan does not vest them to the ordinance. If they had a site plan application submitted prior to the ordinance change, then they would be vested to the ordinance at the time they applied.
Right.
But not for a rezone and concept plan.
Okay. And then, this must have happened while I was on the planning commission, but I don't remember. What was the reason why we decided to make, change the external storage to not be conditional?
You know, I didn't go and look at the minutes. We took all of the conditional uses out. And so in that discussion, the outdoor storage came up. So we left any item that was a conditional use that we still wanted to have separate standards. We left that as permitted use and we added standards. And the challenge we were having with conditional uses is we can't just add arbitrary standards. They have to be specific in the code. So what we did is we made all of those uses that we wanted to keep with standards, and we put those standards as requirements rather than conditions. And in that process, it was determined that outdoor storage wasn't wanted. So that was struck in the table.
Okay.
And if it had been determined to keep it, we would have kept that in the code and made those standards requirements rather than conditional uses.
Okay, because what I do remember when we did that was that, yeah, let's not make things conditional, but rather allow most things, except for specific ones that we didn't want. And I don't remember having that discussion about outside storage, but it was something specifically decided upon. I mean, it wasn't just a broad stroke that we did with everything else. We actually looked at it and said that we didn't want this. Is that?
I'd have for me to be able to answer that, I'd have to go listen and read.
Yeah, okay. Otherwise it would have been just permitted, right?
David Stroud presented that, so I don't know that I was even in attendance.
Okay. Yeah, because I just, what I remember from that meeting when we did that, because I do remember striking all the conditionals, and that the idea was that let's not do conditional, let's make it permitted everywhere unless we specifically didn't want to. But I don't remember the discussion on the outside storage. So, but
well,
if
and my
it
thought,
is made,
yeah,
if it was stricken, or whatever we call it, if it's no longer allowed, there must have been a specific reason for it. Otherwise, it'd be permitted.
that was my thought too.
Yeah.
And I didn't go look at all of those minutes, but that was my thought too, that since it was taken out, it was intentional.
Okay.
I think our city attorney wanted to chime in here.
Sarah, I thought that this had originally been zoned industrial and that outdoor storage is allowed in the industrial zone, but then it was rezoned office warehouse. Am I confused?
Yes, it was not zoned industrial.
Oh, okay.
It was zoned office warehouse, and we took the outdoor storage use off of the use table.
Is it still in industrial though, outdoor storage or not?
If it's industrial, outdoor storage is in there.
Oh, okay. That was the confusion.
Well, so they were debating between applying for a rezone to industrial or asking for a development agreement amendment.
Which I will say, we came in June on this subject with the industrial rezone because that had the permitted use initially. And then after working with staff, we were this method to come this way because it's really only that building material storage without, the building material cells with outdoor storage that we're really going to, not all the uses in the industrial zone. And so that's really what we were trying to kind of figure out, was that there were some concerns about the intensity of the uses from the industrial zone while we're really just going after this one use.
Right. Okay. Okay, and then I had this is a new question I have. What are your reasons for not wanting to do the screening as initially proposed by staff?
So after reviewing, and I can let Robert go through that, we have 4 different lots here, and there's going to be varying businesses with varying needs on that way. And so I feel like as we're kind of going that way, it would be limited to what businesses we could actually bring into the city. Because I think the most concern about this is just the screening, not in fact the height difference itself or what it is. It's just more the screening. And so I think we would love to be able to work with staff on a one-on-one basis and be like, okay, for this business, they might have a shed or something back, which might include the screening. So just be able to work on that as we further develop these site plans.
Okay, all right. Thank you for your answer. There, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. We'll go to Commissioner Barton and then Commissioner Ryan.
Man, he picked his button first, sorry. I just don't like the outdoor storage right here. Nothing against Final Industries or whatever and stuff like that, but it is an eyesore right there in Lehigh, and it is the main, like, everybody sees it right there, like everybody's driving past it and that kind of stuff, right? Like it kind of is. And so it's not something that I feel like it is kind of where everybody's coming in to Saratoga and all that kind of stuff. So I don't love the outdoor storage. And again, there must have been a reason. We didn't just say, hey, we don't want this. I remember there being discussion about it, and I don't exactly remember why, but I just don't think it's the best place for it. I don't know. That's just, I had something else to say too, but I forgot what I was going to say about it. But I just feel like unless we know exactly why, I don't want to change it just for this site, because then it comes down to the same thing where do we change it for somebody else and somebody else and somebody else? Or do we just say, hey, we decided this is where we're keeping it, and that sort of thing. So I don't love it at this spot, and I do feel like that, not that Lehigh ever cares about us. I don't know if they do or not when they're making their decisions and stuff like that, but there is residential there. And so I think it would be really nice of us to kind of, to remember that and to think about that as we're looking at this kind of thing. I don't know how Lehigh City makes their decisions, because, we're right next to them and stuff like that, but I feel like that's something that would be really, would be good neighbors of us to kind of look at it as well. But yeah, for me, it's just not, for me, I don't feel like it's the best place for outdoor storage. And you can see it literally miles and miles down the road. I mean, that's what it is with the landscape right there. So that's just my feelings on it.
Thank you, Commissioner Barton. Commissioner Ryan.
I appreciate the comments so far, and particularly Commissioner Barton. I love that we have different perspectives. We come from different parts in the city. I have some initial thoughts around the partnership with Lehigh. Like, I look at what Lehigh themselves are putting in this area, and I'm not so sure they care so much about the homes that are out there with office, I mean, if you want to call it, whatever the behemoth thing is, that now we have a giant wall that we stare at as we come to our city. And then also storage units are going in just to the north of this as well, within the boundaries of the city. So I'm not so sure for me, it doesn't necessarily hold water, because I don't think they care too much anyways about what's going on in the city out at this portion. So, and that's probably a little bit harsh on my assessment. So if there are pro Lehigh fans, I'm with you. I love Lehigh, but yeah, I'm not so sure. My question is around going back to the zoning. So where do we allow outdoor storage? Is it only in industrial? And if that is the case, then how are we going to handle the Home Depots of the world? And it may have been inadvertent, but there's also a picture of Walmart that was in your presentation, and there's an awful lot of outdoor storage going on at Walmart. And I guess it depends on what we define as building materials, but it certainly is occurring now in the Walmart parking lot, either officially or unofficially. And then in official areas of the Walmart, you have a lot of outdoor storage. So I'm just trying to figure out, does regional commercial, which I'm guessing the Home Depot will come under, does that allow for outdoor storage?
It allows for outdoor display areas that they designate on their site plan.
But if you drive by a Home Depot, you realize that there's like mounds of lumber that are stacked up in the parking lot of any Home Depot.
Sorry, I didn't look into that.
Well,
so,
and I'm just saying, officially or
I don't-
unofficially, like this is the practice that takes place, right?
Yeah.
So when we get our Home Depot, which we're all desperately wanting, we will have this, whatever zone it is in there, there will be outdoor storage at the Home Depot. That's just coming from a Home Depot 20 years ago, like that's what happens. So I'm trying to figure out where we allow the outdoor storage. And if it is just industrial, like I've already expressed some of my concerns around how we've classified industrial and the connotations that come around it, that are either, justified or not. But I'm wondering if we need to re-examine that, because for me, I appreciate the applicant working with the city and working towards the recommendation of the city only to come to this point and then have the city possibly say, sorry, but no. That seems a bit disingenuous from the outside with very few facts on my part. I am more so towards what Commissioner Barton mentioned. I hate exceptions. So it's hard for me to say, this is just such an extenuating circumstance, like let's make the exception. I would rather us provide the correct avenues to be able to allow for something like this, because am I understanding correctly, like you're talking about moving your entire, or is this just another location for Vinyl Industries, or is this like Vinyl Industries, like leaving the Lehigh location and coming to Saratoga?
Coming to Saratoga.
Okay.
Which I will say, this is a great opportunity for Saratoga Springs to get some sales tax revenue too. Vinyl Industries is a steady business that has been operating for 30 years now. 28. And they do a lot of sales, and they have a storefront area too. And so it's a great opportunity. I know Home Depot is a great one too, but some of these other guys that were the local were American before the Home Depots came, right? It's kind of blocking out any of the local business owners coming in and just favoring the national chains that way.
Yeah, I won't comment towards any of that, but I appreciate the desire, it's in and of itself, of a business to relocate to our city. That's great, and we need things like that. I think we have to be pretty honest with ourselves about our view corridors and what is already happening at the north end of the city. In my opinion, that ship has sailed. In terms of what we will see coming into the north end of the city and what is already there in the north end of the city. Not that it's waving a white flag and saying, let's have more of this, but we also, I think, can provide a cohesiveness to what is already there, in addition to great opportunities like this from a company like Vinyl Industries. So my questions, I guess, after a lot of ranting and raving here, I just went to a training where, we should allow people to speak, so I'm speaking my mind freely. I feel like we should do our best to work with the applicant to re-examine ourselves, the zones, to make sure that we do allow in zones, perhaps outside of industrial, for some outdoor storage, and be able to figure out, because I think the way that this is laid out, at least in my mind, initial impression, like this could work, in my opinion, because it hides a lot of that outdoor storage in an appropriate fashion and brings a great business to the city. So I'm more in favor of trying to work around officially through the zoning possibilities versus an exception. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I did find the answer to your question. Do you want?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you, Sarah.
So, yeah.
I don't know if there was, yeah, it's good, because I asked a lot of questions in a lot of that. So.
On the outdoor storage, so we have a section of code that says outdoor display, and it says all retail product displays shall be located under the building's permanent roof structure or on designated display pads within front landscape areas. It has some other criteria about, and keep in mind too that Tractor Supply and Walmart were approved under different codes, and Home Depot will be approved under the current code. And so outdoor storage is different than outdoor retail areas, and I think that's part of the difference. So at Home Depot would be a retail product display area located under the building's structure.
So Fred, draw the legal distinction for me then between what a Home Depot does by putting a stack of lumber out there and what a Vinyl Industry does by stacking up some fence posts.
Well, the zoning is different, for one thing. So it's commercial zone, regional commercial, and then versus office warehouse, right?
I understand that, but I'm saying if we were to move towards an approach, like I guess from your background that you shared from the applicant's side, you said you originally came with perhaps a possible zone change, correct? That was one of the avenues
Yeah, so we were here in June and we ended up kind of withdrawing because we initially went for the industrial rezone just to get that as a permitted use. And there was concerns expressed from staff saying that that was too intensive of a use. And so they recommended going this route because they thought it would be more favorable for the planning commission.
If I could continue to, storage,
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
storage is different from retail. I think that's what Sarah was getting at as well.
Right.
With retail, you're seeing a lot more movement. With storage, it kind of sits there, the product, longer.
How would we as a city make that distinction? We're not going out there and counting the number of boards that Home Depot sells in a month versus how many. It's just an unfair distinction in my mind. There's no way you can either monitor that and or want to delve into that as a city.
Yeah, and I don't know if there are standards, Sarah might be able to speak to this better, about fencing and other screening in the, for example, for a Home Depot. But that's what they're attempting to try to, the city was trying to negotiate some fencing and screening.
Well, and I
height limitations.
I don't think that the applicant is necessarily opposed to the screening idea. I think there's room there for us to work with each other. Makes total sense. You don't want a concrete panel wall when you're a vinyl industry. Like, good for you for sticking up for your business.
You put me
I
on the
understand
spot,
that.
and so I'm just trying to help you.
No, I understand.
brainstorm it.
I hope you never feel like I put you on the spot. Because
Oh, no,
you're very
I
bright
don't.
mind.
It's fine. I'm trying to help you
I also think the difference is,
distinguish between, make a distinction.
yeah, I think another difference is the scale of the storage. So what you're seeing here at Vinyl Industries, where it's most of the site is storage versus what you're talking about at Home Depot. And keep in mind, I don't go to Home Depot every day, so I wasn't aware that they had outdoor piles of lumber. But that being said, I think what we're discussing here is this zone and this site, and do we want outdoor storage here? So I think when we're talking about Home Depot and in a different zone, let's talk about Home Depot, but this is, you know what I mean?
Well, the reason why I bring that argument, so if the Home Depot is in the right zone and we will eventually talk about the Home Depot, what zone is that? That's my question. Is it regional commercial
It
as it now
is.
stands?
Yeah, right, it's regional commercial.
So can the applicant come back with a petition to change this to regional commercial, and would the applicant be amenable to that?
Well, I think the difference, though, is that this is outdoor storage, and those are outdoor retail display areas where people are coming and purchasing and leaving, and it's not taking up the majority of the site.
Our product will turns every bit as fast as Home Depot's. People are coming and buying it.
I agree with you. I actually agree with you.
All the homes you see built need a fence, and they come and buy it.
And I will say too, just like you said, we're amenable to the screening. And, we think what staff proposed is a great base layer. We just wanted the flexibility when we got to the site plan and actually dug into the details to say, hey, okay, this is actually what it's going to look like. Staff, is this adequate here? Instead of just having a blanket for the rest in case we needed to fluctuate pending site circumstances or business circumstances to make sure that they're the most successful they can.
I've monopolized on the time, Mr. Chair. I will turn it back over, maybe reserve a right or two.
Okay. We're going to go to Commissioner McConkey and then Commissioner Barton. And then, let's go to Commissioner Burns first and then Commissioner Barton because you spoke earlier. We'll give everybody a shot to go first. So Commissioner McConkey and then Commissioner Burns.
Thank you. Commissioner Burns, did you want to go first? Good. I want to get back to what the goal here is of what the city would not be interested in about the outdoor storage. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I'd love some feedback from the other commissioners and from staff. If we just look at outdoor storage, generally speaking, it's just kind of unsightly, and it's not very pretty. And so in my mind, what we don't want is ugly, especially viewable from Redwood Road. Is there another reason other than that jumps out at you guys? I'm just asking. I just have a line of thought here that's going through my mind here. So,
It didn't have anything to do with location. It was just zone, all the zones.
okay, so we're looking at ugliness and maybe compliance of.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, man. Like, that's my point.
No, I agree.
Home
I don't know
Depot,
how else to
they're
say
not,
it.
Not a one of us are gonna jump up and down and be like, oh my gosh, you can't store that 2x4 bundle out in your parking lot. We will not say a word because we're so desperate for Home Depot.
Yeah.
And yet we are arbitrarily, in my mind, saying, oh, no, but the fencing guys, because his setup is a little bit differently, or because there's I would argue, a random picture that we're being presented to ourselves as some unsightly business. That's just not, I don't see how we stand on that without, I don't know.
The
not
code
being
change,
as bold as we could be.
the code change was not targeted against any particular vendor or location. It was
Right.
just simply code.
And this was an office
Just
an office
citywide.
warehouse change, or this was
Conditional use change.
this is a
Yeah,
conditional.
the conditional use
It was
change.
not targeted towards any kind of vendor or
Yeah.
aesthetic look or location.
It was just removing conditional uses off of office.
We just didn't want it.
Yeah, we didn't want conditional uses anymore.
You can't
Okay.
have as much say if you, it's just the way the
Understood.
state code is. So
Understood. So, that almost makes some of my other thoughts a little obsolete, because if that's the case, then it's not much of a discussion. I agree with Commissioner Ryan, very much so, and that's something to keep in mind as we look forward to Home Depot, as well. In my mind, looking at what the purpose of not having outdoor storage would be have a lot to do with visibility, and I think recognizing that what we're saying as far as the layout of the buildings is a concept plan, it's not a site plan, correct? We've not approved a site plan yet.
Right.
And so a change, we really don't know what we would get. We can guess, and it may align with the concept plan, but we really don't know what that's going to look like. So this is really a general, and that makes me uncomfortable, because just to give a general exception without having a site plan. Otherwise, if it's solely about visibility, and say, for example, from Redwood Road, I think there's some great remedies that could be put in place. Nevertheless, I wasn't part of the Planning Commission when the whole ordinance was changed. As far as visibility from other parts of the city, the farther away you get, the more we can see, but I think as you get farther away, it just probably just doesn't matter that much. But what we do want is when you're coming into the city, that things look attractive. They have the aesthetics that we're striving for. Another question I had is if storage is the best use of the land right there. And so I don't know if that's the best use as far as, but recognizing that this is retail. And it did occur to me this week, looking over the staff packet, that any retail certainly provides financial support to the city, and that can be a good thing. But I think the rest of my comments are probably neither here nor there anyway. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner McConkey. Commissioner Burns, and then we'll do Commissioner Barton.
Sarah, can we go back to the picture of the Final Industries?
Yeah, which way is it?
Thank you. So on that bottom one, so you've got pallets stacked above the fence there. Is that something that we would be seeing in this new site as well?
You're not going to see it from Redwood Road. You will see it. The person that's going to see it is the three-story apartment building that's going to be built behind it, and the person that buys the top floor. That's who's going to see it.
We did verify that those are single-family homes, not three-story apartments.
So then that two-story home, that's the one that's who's going to see it the most in the back. In the front, you're not going to see it. I took measurements and figured things out, and we really need to be able to stack 15 feet high. That highest one there is closer to 20 feet high. And we would not need to do that. We could drop down to 15. And we would be an 8-foot high fence or would be totally acceptable.
So one of the proposals was a 10-foot high fence, and you don't want to do a 10, am I wrong on that?
It was a 6-foot high fence with a 10-foot height limit, was what staff initially proposed.
Okay.
And as I look at my material, 10 feet is very limiting to what we'd be able to do.
That's all I had.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. Commissioner Barton.
I just want to say that I know I bring up the aesthetics a lot and that kind of stuff, but that's because I live in the north and we are thrown with this stuff all the time. And so I feel like I need to stick up for our area of the city. And so that's why it's usually my concern is because, yeah, we are getting stuff thrown at us and I don't know. And I have to say, we have vinyl fencing. I've always used Vinyl Industries. So it's not that I'm against having them come in and stuff like that. I think they're a fantastic company. And we want the smaller guys in here as well. I don't feel like I wouldn't want a city with just the big guys, right? I don't want that. I don't think that's good for any city. But I do worry about the aesthetics a little bit. So I feel like I just don't know, right? Like I don't want to make it an exception because I don't like that either. I don't know. This is a good discussion. I just feel like it's maybe not the right place for that, but then I don't know. I have to look at that. I know it sounds shallow, but I have to look at the aesthetics because I do live over there and people are driving it and it's busier and busier and busier all the time coming up that way, coming up 2100 North. And we do see a lot of it, whether there's houses there or not. I mean, we still see it. And so that's just a little bit of justification because I sound so shallow sometimes when I talk about the aesthetic side of everything. But
Thank you, Commissioner
But
Barton.
there's got to be something, right?
Thank you, Commissioner Barton. I'm going to Commissioner McConkey and Commissioner Kilgore want to have some additional say, but I'm going to take my turn. I'm going to take my turn. I don't want to wait anymore. So I remember when we did the whole, when we did the zone change originally for this, the office warehouse thing, and I don't remember what uses we were talking about at that time. I do remember doing the conditional use and why we did that. I didn't realize we were going to get somebody caught in the middle. It's hard to say what the commission would have done if they would have granted a conditional use. The other thing is I don't feel like we have a whole lot of say what Lehigh's putting in there. And so I'm okay to put it there if we have some sort of screening that we can come up with an agreement with staff. If we're going to, I would like to propose we add as a condition that we put up screening for this site.
So if
If it goes to an approval, that's what
so we talked with the applicant earlier today, and it doesn't have to be a 6-foot fence and a 10-foot height limit. It's just that, and this is Vinyl Industry, and they're one of the smaller lots. We're talking about 4 lots there. And so we're talking about no limits on their outdoor storage or screening or anything. And if it had been a conditional use, there would have been standards and criteria. There should have been, right? And I understand where they're coming from with their concern that they got, when they first looked at the code, it was there, and then they looked at it after their approval and it wasn't there. So I do understand that concern. So that's why I do think part of the question is out, you know what I mean? In this zone, is outdoor storage something we want? And at this site, is it something we want? And then also, if we do want it, what's the appropriate measures? And that's something, so their proposal to just have it handled with site plan isn't something staff can support because it doesn't give detailed criteria, and this development agreement is the way to have detailed criteria. This right here just says it's approved with the site plan, and then the screening is approved, but it doesn't have criteria. And so what do we say then if we don't like what they propose? So my staff suggestion would be specific criteria, and it doesn't have to be criteria.
Okay. I would like to add something along those lines as a condition. I think I want to hear from Fred. our city attorney? Or is it Doug?
It's Doug.
Okay, Doug. One of you rang in. I don't know which one. It says attorney. I can't tell.
But Fred can speak for me if you want. No? No?
If he doesn't
Okay.
have anything to say, go ahead.
Here's my take. Sarah, can you go to the second to the last slide on that presentation?
Which one?
Walmart.
Oh, on theirs?
Yep.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, on Ashley's.
Yes, let me,
So
I like that screening.
one of my tasks here at the city is to bring jobs to the city. I think this is a good opportunity to bring jobs if we can find a way to make it work. In looking at this, you've got Walmart's garden center. This is where they store all of their product for you to go in and buy, like topsoil, bags of topsoil, and things like that. If we can screen it in a similar way to this, is that a palatable option to make this work? That way, we bring the jobs in, we find a business that can survive in the city, and we make it palatable for everyone. You're not going to see these pallets from Redwood Road. That's not the problem. The problem then would be being able to see it from somewhere else. And if you'll notice on the second page, you can remember back to the second page, you do have some of those pallets being unwrapped. And I remember while working in Lehigh, that was a complaint years ago, but every time it was dealt with, they took care of it. It wasn't a big deal, and there hasn't been complaints in the most recent days. So that's a minor issue, and I don't think that can be overcome. So I'm just trying to play the devil's advocate here and give some information that's from the other side. You won't see it from Redwood Road unless you drive clear back to the back and you see it kind of on an angle looking around the building. So there's got to be a solution that can be figured out that will make this work. But your job is to interpret the code. So you have the hard part. I'm just trying to give you a little more to think about.
I did want to say one more thing in that. When I drive on Redwood Road, there's the car repair facility that's out that way, and they've started to take over one of the empty lots with a bunch of their cars. So, I mean, and I can see that from Redwood Road.
yeah, they have been a continual enforcement issue. They are not following any of their conditions of approval, and we've had to contact them several times.
I do have some sympathy for them because of the supply chain issues going on, and I know it takes up to 6 months to get a part for a car to fix it, so that kind of not a good thing. I will go ahead and go to Commissioner Kilgore, and then Commissioner Barton, and then Commissioner Burns, and Commissioner Ryan. So go ahead, Commissioner Kilgore.
Yeah, so I asked about where the Lehigh residents are because, first of all, Sarah brought up the fact that there are Lehigh residents there. I don't care about rivalry between Lehigh or what we do, what their city council approves that harms us in some way aesthetically or whatever. I don't care about that. What I care about is just they're just residents. That's all. There are residents there. But based on the explanation and such, it seems like it's not that big an issue, and that's fine. That's why we're talking. To be honest, I'm sympathetic with your situation because you did think it was one thing and then it changed. Now, when sometimes we just can't help with timing. If you're late, you're late. I'm not saying you're late, but if the door closes, well, it's and if you could get them to open the door, that's great. But my question is, do we want to open the door with this particular application in this particular way? So I've been trying to think: is it better to make an exception in the agreement, or is it better to request an exception through zoning? And that's what I've been trying to figure out. What would be the better way? And I'm sorry, you're just the guinea pig, because I'm trying to think in terms of how we continue to do this in the future for other applicants, so that we don't, it's not favoritism or anything. I think there is a really strong case in your situation because of what happened, and it was the day of, or just very close to the day of, that we should be sympathetic to that. And that's why I'm also trying to understand why we decided, or the city council had approved not putting external storage. It had nothing to do with your particular, with the vendor, the service you supply. Was just a blanket decision. And so I want to also be pretty respectful of that. However, if we don't know why, other than it is, then I think it opens room for exception. So do we grant the if we do grant this application or we recommend approval with this application, then I think it's a little bit of a quid pro quo where, maybe that's not the right way to say it, but then if we request a screening or fencing type of a requirement, then that, as much as you can, working with the staff, that you agree with that. I think, so that way we do it this way, but then we need this, just assurance, and we work something out where you agree with that. Or we go the zoning route. And so lately, we have not been as favorable. In the past, the Planning Commission would recommend approval on all kinds of zoning amendments. We have been doing less of that lately. But I think in your case, you have a real good reason, and we should be sympathetic because of how, of the timing. So I'm not sure which to go, but I am leaning towards the zoning request, because then if you make the zoning amendment request, it is in the code where outside storage is permitted, and it's the only zone that is. And I think that for future applicants, it's a little bit easier to understand why we want that way. That's my opinion so far, unless you guys say something else to change my mind.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. I'm going to make one comment on that. I'm not in favor of the change to industrial, because there's one use in industrial that if they sell everything off can come in there, that I know at least one council member will not vote for that to go in. So I'm kind of leaning more towards a development agreement for the area, which doesn't necessarily mean everybody else can come in later and have it, but that's where I am. And then we'll go to Commissioner Barton, and then Commissioner Burns and Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Barton.
I'm just super uncomfortable with an exception. I really am. It just comes down to, okay, we did it here, but then we don't do it here, but then we do it here. That doesn't make any sense. I'm super uncomfortable with that. I feel like if, in some situations, and again, I'm super sorry, I know you're the guinea pig here, but then we take body parts and literally have 20 to 50 cars out there on the thing. And so then we have that. So will we have that in another situation too? If we give in and decide to make this exception? And so I just am too nervous to make an exception, and I don't know what else to do about it. Again, I'm with the chair about going over to industrial, because again, I know it could come in there if we do that, but I don't know if there's a good answer here. I guess I just mostly want to say I'm uncomfortable with the exception, but I think most of us are, but I don't know how we don't know how to, yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Barton. Commissioner Burns.
Do you have construction crews that meet at the storefront and head out to job sites from there?
Yes.
And so do they leave their vehicles then at so you have your construction crews that meet up there and leave their vehicles? So we are going to have parking issues then from those?
We've planned parking, so that's one more reason why we're going larger, why we need to move to accommodate our needs.
Because right now, they mostly just park along the street, right?
Right now, we rent a piece in North Lehigh where they park.
Okay. I also do not like doing a variance. And I agree that this is a hard spot to be in. And I don't have a good solution either, and that's terrible. Sorry.
Fred or Doug, a development agreement, that's just, could you give us kind of a little bit of background? My understanding is that's between the city and the developer for a specific piece of property, and that doesn't necessarily guarantee somebody else can come in and say, well, you did this development agreement for them here and can get that same. Am I correct in my thinking or not?
Yes, that's correct. However, so it's basically a contract where you're negotiating, giving and taking, and getting concessions, giving concessions. Here, the concession is to allow them to have outdoor storage. And I think what the city would like to get is the screening and those standards in exchange for allowing that in the development agreement.
Okay.
Based on specific criteria for each site, though. Because it might apply for one site, but not the other site. So that's in, Commissioner Barton, that's your argument, that, how can we allow it here but not allow it there? Well, it's all based on the criteria, because the law's generally covering the whole city, but specific sites might be a little bit different or have different pieces of criteria applied to it. So,
Yeah, and that's why a development agreement is used, is good, is site-specific, basically, the development agreement is.
Which, if I can add something.
Yes, go ahead.
I mean, in my development agreement, I am technically allowed office warehouse right now, as it stands in here. Or not office warehouse, but outdoor storage, like self-storage that way. And that was alluded to the development agreement. I will say, in being the guinea pig, I have been in here a couple of times in the city now on these code changes, amendments, and a lot of these times we were never notified that these were proceeding or going along. So I've had this one and in 2 other properties that I have been in where it's been days where I submit or something that I feel like it has been flipped and pulled out of me a little bit, where there was no time to kind of work with or do that. So as somebody who's been trying to bring businesses in to the city, it has become increasingly frustrating to do this because, with this site, we've been working since 2019 on this one to try to bring them in, and it's a long process, and it's costing the city a lot of money in sales tax dollars at this point for the different businesses who could come in.
Commissioner Burns, are you done?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, did you have anything else? Sorry, didn't want to interrupt you.
I'll just push my button again if I do.
Okay, Commissioner Ryan, and then Commissioner Barton, and then Commissioner McConkey. Commissioner Ryan.
Were you before me, Commissioner McConkey? I think you were. Did you press your magical button before I did?
It just wasn't showing up over here.
I think you pressed before I did.
Okay, we'll go with Commissioner McConkey.
So I want to be a gentleman, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
You're so nice. I just quickly want to address the comment that was made about that. While it would be nice for the city to be able to notify the applicants when things change, it's the responsibility of the applicant, as much as it's a drag sometimes, just to be up on and follow what changes might be affected that the city is not obligated necessarily to honor. And it's just the way that things work. And it's not just here. That said, I think it would be great for staff to be proactive and to be able to share information that would be pertinent. That would make a huge difference. And I totally agree with you there. Totally. How many office warehouse zones do we have that are undeveloped? Do we have this one?
Zones
Office.
that are developed.
Is it this one and one other one?
There's 4.
Okay. And the purpose of the office warehouse zones was to have a mix of business and storage or something in the warehouse, correct? Right?
Right, a zone that allows a mixture that allows warehousing.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I can't access the internet right now from my computer, so I can't get up here. So the easy and more expensive and undesirable solution, comparing the two, certainly would be to store everything in the warehouse, which there are some. It is a more expensive way to store, of course, and that's clearly, it's not even a question there. I'm not, just to put my opinion out there, I'm not opposed to an exception if it's specific to a certain type of zone, so we have something to fall back on, especially where I guess we only have 4. I didn't know we had that many office warehouse zones left that are undeveloped. But I agree with the details in the development agreement as what that would look like, have some standards and so forth. Also, I'd like to know, would you mind pulling up code section 19.4.9, since I can't pull it up on mine right now?
While we're waiting for that, I think somebody over at the attorney table rang in. Oh, I didn't. I need to push your button, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to say, you, Commissioner McConkey said, specific to the zone, the development agreement would only be applicable to this particular property. So, I mean, I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're right. I was in foresight if someone else came in with an office warehouse and they wanted to do outside storage and they say, well, you let them,
Right.
and then we'd need to explain ourselves, but just trying to be able to key in, but thank you.
What was the code section?
19.4.9.
Yeah.
And it's number 6. So looking at the office warehouse,
I can't see that. Oh, you want us to read that? What do you want?
so really, one of the things that jumped out this week as I was pondering this and kind of the pros and cons and so forth is right at the end of that first paragraph, when it talks about the purpose and so forth, and it ends with quality site development standards, and that to me speaks a lot of environment, visual, curb appeal or whatever that might be. And so that was one of the things that kind of left me with some concern is about how, if there's outdoor storage allowed as an exception, how would that meet the quality site development standards in this particular zone? And so that would be, if we were to entertain an exception and allow that probably would be my very first question is, how is it going to comply with that intent of the office warehouse zone? And I'm hesitant without a site plan to know where it's going and so forth, which is connected to that. And that was all the comments I wanted to make.
Thank you, Commissioner McConkey. Commissioner Barton, and then we have Commissioner Kilgore, and then Commissioner Ryan.
So,
Yeah, you were supposed to go first.
oh, yeah.
I
you
got,
first.
go ahead, Commissioner Ryan, sorry.
Right.
All right, I'm done being a gentleman. That was too many.
Yeah.
I appreciate the discussion so far. So I mentioned earlier, first of all, Nikki, for the minutes, I would love to say ditto to what Commissioner Kilgore said. I thought he stated it very eloquently, and it was exactly what was on my mind as well. And then there's two other additional things in my mind. So I mentioned earlier that I hate exceptions, but it's not, I feel the tail end of that is when we've worked ourselves into a position as a city where we don't have a viable alternative, that's frustrating. And then perhaps an exception is appropriate in my mind as a result, because I feel that there are other things at play if the applicant was to come back, as was mentioned, and apply for the industrial zone, that I think there are things happening there and strong feelings there that would probably shut that down as well as a result. And then that's really the only place where we've left ourselves for outdoor storage as a city. I mean, we looked at the chart and that's it. That's all we've got. And so I feel like we have to be able to be reasonable as a result, and perhaps where I typically am very adverse to the exceptions, this may be an instance where it makes sense in my mind, because I don't feel like we've set it up properly otherwise as a city to be able to handle requests such as this. That said, the exception would apply, I think you had mentioned this, Sarah, to we're talking the entire 7 buildings on that whole piece of property. So someone else could come in and say, hey, hey, we got outdoor storage here now, come on in. Is that correct?
Well, no, they're asking for it for the eastern buildings. So these
Just
ones,
the 4 buildings.
Right.
And any one of those 4 buildings then would have the exception applied.
that's what they're asking for.
Okay. And then on the 2, I don't want to say competing, but suggested amendments from the city and then from the applicant. I agree with you what you said from the applicant's suggested amendments. I worry a little bit about that. I like the idea of the city being able to control it more. It's really hard to gaze into the crystal ball and envision what the other 3 sites or buildings would be, or what they might come in as. The one thing I liked is on the applicant's amendment or proposed language, they said as approved by the city. And I don't know, Fred, if that's too vague and that leads us open for like, why did you allow it here, not allow it here? Why'd you give them a yes and me a no on that proposed language? But it's that last, it says that will be subject to city approval. So I'm just trying to gauge a better sense, and Fred, not to put you on the spot again, I'm sorry to do that, but is the city more in favor, I'm just trying to gain a better sense, is the city more in favor of moving this route towards the exception with the controls around it, with the language, versus the alternate, I guess, of the zone change? I mean, it seems as if the applicant was informed or advised, or at least had discussions to approach it this way, and I just want to confirm that the city's more comfortable, given this situation, to go this route. And then if we are comfortable, is it better to have that language that says we'll be subject to the city approval versus we're saying, hey, it has to be 10 feet high and 10 feet high on the stacking levels and 6 feet and across the board, when we have no idea if that really works for Vinyl Industries or doesn't work for Vinyl Industries, and then the second or third or fourth building that comes in, is a mess and doesn't accomplish what we want to accomplish, because we may need to be able to leave ourselves the flexibility in that exception. I hope that makes sense. So Fred, not to put you on the spot, I tried to babble on for a few minutes just to give you a couple.
This is the first time I've seen this language tonight, so
Me too.
I haven't really had a chance to review the proposed language there. I think when we were looking at the site or the development agreement amendment language, and when we were discussing it internally, we talked about adding the standards into the development agreement because it would make it very clear. This is what is allowed. This is what is not allowed. It makes enforcement very easy
That's a good point.
for our code enforcement officer. So that's why we were looking at adding the particular, requirements in the actual development agreement. So, but this is the first time I've seen this language, and I haven't had a chance to review it.
I appreciate that. And it's first we've seen it as well. And I just caught that one and just wanting to know what provides the city the biggest tools, because I was sensitive to Director Meldrum's comments about, look, like we can figure this out. Like I firmly believe that. And I think that's what you were saying, Doug. If I don't want to put words into your mouth, but I feel like we can figure this out. And I want to be able to give the cities the right tools to be very comfortable with how we figure it out in terms of the aesthetics and the way that it sets itself up. And if it's I don't want to say arbitrarily, but if it's, hey, we decided that the 6-foot fence and the 10-foot stacks is really where we need to go, then I just want to have confirmation that that's it. Or is it 15-foot stacks and a 10-foot fence gets us to where we need to go? Or is it racking like where in the example that we were given with Walmart? I want to be able to give the flexibility so that you can go and work through that. Because it is very different, I think, for each place. And I don't know if I'm the expert to go in and say, okay, we're going to tonight pass this exception and delineate exactly how that's going to look, because then that can cause a whole host of other problems in my mind. So long story short, I feel like I'm over the exemption hurdle, but now I want to give the right tools to you to be able to set it up beautifully. Because my last comment, Mr. Chair, is I think I had some of the same concerns around Tim Brettel, around the same location. They have a lot of outdoor storage, and we thought, oh my goodness, like what is this actually going to look like? I can guarantee you, like majority of residents don't think two thoughts driving down Redwood Road, looking to their left and seeing the Tim Brettel building, because they did such a good job. The city staff did such a good job setting that up the right way, that it's a great addition to the city, bringing in some of those tax dollars, and it's aesthetically pleasing in my mind as I drive up and down Redwood Road every day to my job.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. We'll go to Commissioner Barton and then Commissioner Kilgore. Commissioner Barton.
So one of my biggest things is when Ashley was bringing up, hey, we're losing sales tax, like that. For me, thank heavens, there's some checks and balances. Yeah, we want businesses in here, but we also want those checks and balances so we don't just let anybody come in just because we're looking for sales tax and stuff like that. So for me, that's not a good argument, because yeah, we want businesses here. We want our people to be able to stay here and work and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean we just let any who do whatever they want and build whatever they want and do whatever they want. And so for me, I'm glad we have these checks and balances. I know the city's getting a ton better and doing lots better stuff. I know when I first moved here, like nobody wanted to come out here because it was really hard, right? But I think the city's done such a phenomenal job the last, 5 even more years, just making sure that they're getting people here. So I don't feel like that's we want businesses here, but we also want those checks and balances to make sure, hey, we're not just throwing things into our city, which I think Lehigh's done that a little bit, but not to bring up Lehigh again. And I also had the question, but I think Commissioner Ryan got it answered for me, just like the 6-foot fence and the 10-foot stacks compared to the 15-foot stacks and that kind of stuff. I just but he asked to answer most of that. But yes, my thing is we want people here, but we also want to we have a great looking city. We have a great city and we want to keep it that way. Not that you wouldn't be a great addition. I'm so sorry. I feel so bad like we're throwing things at you. It's not you. It's just bad that we have those checks and balances and we have the Planning Commission and City Council for this. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Barton. Commissioner Kilgore.
So today there was a land use planning training at Lehigh, and some of the commissioners on here did attend. And at several of the sessions, I noticed that a lot of cities have been using development agreements as for providing exceptions and such as that's what they're designed for, and it is an option. It's a legal practice option. But what I thought also was that many of the cities have gotten to the habit of using that constantly instead of updating their code, or sticking to the code because it's kind of hard to do so when you're facing either residents or applicants. And I just thought, I'm glad that it feels at Saratoga Springs, as far as the Planning Commission goes in the recommendations that we make and the approvals that we make and denials are more, I don't know if I should say disciplined, but at least more black and white as it refers to what is actually written. And when something needs to be revised, we try to revise it very in a timely manner, because a lot of other cities, it looks like they've let some of their problems just go on, and they resolve it by using development agreements. So I wonder sometimes, what's the point of the zoning codes other than just as a baseline reference so that we could make exceptions for everybody? And we're not there yet, but I don't want to. It may be inevitable, maybe because businesses, just like people, are individual. They're very different. And one size does not fit all. So I understand the need for that kind of a tool. I understand that also that we're going to be maybe using it more and more and more. But I don't feel that in this particular case, because there is an actual way to comply with code, I'm not going to second guess what city council members are going to think. I'm not going to second guess. If one disagrees with it, fine. Then there's 4 others that may not. You don't have to have a unanimous vote, but I'm not going to second guess what they think. I just want our job as a planning commissioners is supposed to be to enforce the land use and zoning codes. I always get those terms mixed up, but anyway, so that's why I feel like if there's a process in place, there is a zone in place that meets the applicant's needs, then that's what, as a planning commissioner, I want to try to steer towards and avoid, at least today, becoming a city like some other cities where development agreements are just used in order to just make it easier for everybody because it's so for whatever reason. And I'd rather just stick with the code. So I'm starting to lean very much towards that way.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. Any other comments from the commission? Commissioner McConkey.
A quick one. I think that you said it well, Commissioner Kilgore. I also see it as a tool, certainly a tool in the tool bag. We don't need to always use the same tool for everything, of course, and there's better hammers to use than a little tack hammer for, framing, for example. But I'm not opposed to considering an exception and going the route that they're attempting to. But certainly there's got to be some more information and certainly needs to be a lot more detailed and to show how it complies. It's similar to the building code. There's the cookie cutter code requirements, but the building code does allow for alternate means and methods. And so it just needs to show that the intent of the alternative is equivalent or better than the prescriptive requirements. And I think something like this can be somewhat similar. I'm not comfortable just making an overall exception without, again, what I already mentioned previously, but certainly it's a tool, in my opinion. But I think, in my opinion, just for being open here, I wouldn't mind a continuance on this and giving them a chance and staff a chance to come up with something that could very well work and to show how it will comply with the intent of the what they're trying to do in the office warehouse zone. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Commissioner McConkey. I'm going to go ahead and open this up. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move to continue the development agreement amendment 1 for Northern Frontier Business Park to either the next meeting or a month from now. Or maybe I should just say a future meeting with the intent that they are able to give them time to put together a much more
Site
detailed.
standards plan?
Pardon me?
Site standards agreement?
Yes. Much more detailed standards. And
Does that work, Sarah and Fred, for a continuance?
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah.
Okay.
it can be general, right? So the intent, again, maybe this is part of the continuance motion, the intent being to provide an opportunity for the applicant to look at what the purpose of the office warehouse zone is as it is currently, and how granting an exception for outdoor storage, and especially location and the screening, everything that we've talked about, how that will achieve the intent behind our current ordinance for the office warehouse zone.
So we have a motion from Commissioner McConkey. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Commissioner Ryan. Do you have a question on the motion?
Yeah, I have a question. So is this clear to the applicant? Because it looks like the burden is now on you to justify how your business will fit with the office warehouse zone. Is that
Not the
clear?
business, not the business.
Or I'm sorry, the
It
standard.
would be this is specifically regarding the outdoor storage is what we're addressing, correct? And that's what this whole
Well,
hearing is about.
yeah, but the amendment also talked about the fencing and the screening and such as well. But I just want to make sure that it's clear to the applicant what's being proposed here.
Okay. Maybe I should restate my motion.
Well, that's a question for the applicant then, right?
Yeah.
So do you feel like you've had enough feedback this evening to maybe go, and I feel like, I again appreciated what Doug had mentioned, right? There's got to be a way, and I feel that as well, like, we were presented with the language that you suggested, I mean, on the spot this evening as well, which I don't think was fair to us or to you to really digest what you proposed. And again, like, I just don't feel like setting a 10-foot, 6-foot across the board is enough. So that's why I'm in favor of the continuance as well, is to be able to come back and say, hey, we've talked through it, we've looked at some additional examples, we feel like, you know, this is the route to go. So that's why I support it, and I don't know if that's exactly what you're saying. I don't want to put words into.
Yeah, really any change to the development agreement and regarding certainly the core here is the outdoor storage, is my understanding, and how to address that. I'm really interested in having specifics about how it will comply and with the intent of the office warehouse zone, if we're to grant some sort of exception. And that's really what I'm interested in.
Another option, if you did want to move it forward, is you could add a condition that they propose those items for the council to consider.
So we have a motion in front of us right now. Let's do a vote on that motion. If it fails, then we can do a substitute motion at that point.
But I still have a question because the back and forth with the amendment that was shown to us was about, I mean, the amendment to the staff's recommendation was about screening.
Right.
Not just about external storage.
And that goes back to, you still have the code pulled up there?
The code?
I just want to make sure your continuance includes that. I wasn't sure if it did.
Yeah, so how does the proposed amendment meet the current office warehouse zone intent, which includes in part that it provides a quality site standard, quality site development standard.
Okay.
So that's what a continuance to come up with an agreement for the site standards for the storage, right? Or just
No.
general site standard?
That's not how I understood it.
So do we need to, maybe at this point, we should restate the motion?
Okay.
Because it sounded like you're putting the burden on the applicant as opposed to an agreement between the city and the.
Yeah, the burden is on the applicant, certainly. The staff, you guys are amazing, by the way, really. Always say that. Staff, you guys are great, but the burden would be on the applicant to work with staff and come up with something that they feel complies with the intent of the office warehouse zone, which specifically regarding quality site development standards and how the exception would still comply with that. Having open outdoor storage, for example, for everyone to see, to me, does not.
I'm thinking this is getting too broad.
Well, there's a lot of discussion, so we do prefer a concise motion.
So,
Is that your motion restated?
So I'll restate the motion. I move to continue the development agreement, Amendment 1 for Northern Frontier Business Park to a future meeting for the intent of the applicant to show how
Let me step in.
for specifics. I'm kind of at a lack of
It's got to
word.
be a mutually agreed upon, because that's the thing. This is a negotiation of a contract. So it's mutually agreeable standards.
Yeah,
Storage and.
perfect.
Standard.
Yeah.
The intent to develop some mutual
Fred's
agreeable
words, insert Fred's words here.
standards.
Copy and paste.
Yeah, standards that would
Storage and screening standards.
that would meet the intent of the office warehouse zone.
So we have a motion from Commissioner McConkey. Do we have a second?
I'll re-second.
So we have a second. Do we have a question on the motion? Is everybody clear what we're doing here? No. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Nay. Okay. All right, we're going to have to do a roll call, so I'm not sure. So Commissioner McConkey,
Aye.
aye. Commissioner Barton,
Nay.
Commissioner Cunningham is nay. Commissioner Kilgore,
Nay.
nay. Commissioner Ryan,
Aye.
aye. And Commissioner Burns.
Aye.
So that's 3-3, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Call Commissioner Anderson.
We need,
Yeah, that's right. I think because it was a tie vote that the motion fails.
okay. And this, so do we need to do another motion or,
You would need to do another motion.
okay.
One less complicated, apparently.
All right.
Can we clarify maybe why, are we allowed to do that? Why you're voting a nay?
Yes, we can say why we're voting a nay. So,
So my understanding and probably I really didn't understand what we just voted on, so I'll be.
so that's why you're voting nay? Okay.
No, I voted aye.
Oh.
I'm just saying, so we voted to come back and look at this with the mutually agreed upon agreement between the applicant and the city, right? So can those who voted nay maybe clarify why, and so we can
All right.
dig out something that works for everyone? Is that allowed?
Yeah, yes, we can.
At this point, I think anything's
We can, part of our charter or rules allow us to for those who voted nay, can give an explanation. So I'll start with Commissioner Ryan. What, you
I
voted?
voted yes.
Oh, Commissioner
I
Kilgore.
think it's 4-2.
It was 3-3.
No, it was 3-3.
Yeah.
You voted aye, right?
I did, you voted,
Nay.
yeah, yes.
nay.
Yeah, the
no.
three middles voted nay.
Okay. So,
I did.
No, I know you did. So there's two of us.
Yes.
me.
Oh, you voted nay.
Great.
Maybe we
Sorry,
need
sorry,
to take
sorry.
a break. Maybe we should just.
I do need to take a break.
bathroom break.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're probably used to just like getting stuff done on time.
Yes. And Ashley has 2 more items too, by the way.
You guys aren't done with me yet.
I was going to mention that in hopes that maybe we could be more lenient on her, but let's take 5-10 minutes, and then we can come back and those of us who voted against it will explain why we did. Does that sound good?
Okay.
Then we'll need a new motion. All over outdoor.
Okay, we're going to return to the meeting, everybody. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to have the people who voted against the continuance give an explanation. So I'll go ahead and start with Commissioner Anderson, or not Commissioner Barton.
It's just the same thing that I've been saying. I am comfortable with any exception. I just feel like then it turns into we have to make sure they're complying. I mean, even if we have an agreement, that doesn't mean they always can comply like we have, with other places, and that's the city always being like, oh, you're not doing this, so we have to enforce this and that kind of stuff. And it's just, I think with the outdoor storage, I think we took that out for a reason. And again, not that we keep saying this, not that I'm against or anything like that, but in this situation, I'm just uncomfortable making that exception.
Commissioner Kilgore.
I understand that exception processes exist, or we have a process for it, and therefore it's a completely legitimate tool to use. But in this case, where we've gone back and forth for so much, or not back and forth, but rather voice our opinions and trying to figure things out, if there is a process that is available, that's just part of the normal process, which means a code amendment request, and then a zone that does allow for the requested use, then why not use it? And that's why I wasn't comfortable with a continuance and just basically make it it's just really a done deal in that case.
I didn't want to do the continuance. I think that we could probably move the item forward to the city council with a recommendation that the applicant and the city work out an agreement for some site standards for screening. And that's what I think would be the best, to move this forward and let the city council look at it. That was my feelings. So with that being stated, I will entertain another motion.
Commissioner Ryan, so I moved it forward. The Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval of the City Council regarding the Development Agreement Amendment 1 for the Northern Frontier Business Park located at approximately 2250 North Redwood, based on the finding and conditions in the staff report, with the addition that this is where we're going to get wordy, the city and the applicant arrive at mutually agreeable standards for
The
site screening and storage. Would that give you enough, Sarah?
To present before the city council?
Yeah. For the city council to consider, yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Ryan. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Do we have a question on the motion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay, so I think we have 4-2. And those who voted against it, would you guys like to explain why you voted?
Same as my.
Same as last time? Okay,
Same as last time.
all right. All right, so we get a positive recommendation on that one, and we get to go to item number 6 now, finally. And this is a business item, Saratoga Town Center preliminary and final plat located.
Thank you for being here.
Located at 1434 North Redwood Road. Ashley Hadfield is the applicant, and Sarah Carroll is presenting for us.
Okay, and this one, there were a couple things in the staff report, but we have worked them out. So this will be smoother than originally expected when your packet went out. So the proposal is for 9 commercial lots. We're looking at 2 things. We're looking at a preliminary plat, and then we're looking at a site plan for just one of these. So 9 commercial lots on about 16 acres, and then about time site plan on lot 6, which is 1.74 acres.
Was this 6 and 7 together, kind of?
We're doing them together, yes. And then, so this is the whole all of the lots. So you're seeing all of the lots here, but then in the middle there is the About Time site. And then this is a close-up of the About Time site. These are the proposed elevations. There is a request to allow the stairs, the exterior stairs. So the code says the planning commission can allow them if they choose to. And so here's the other elevation. These are the floor plans. There will be 3 restaurants in there, 2 takeout restaurants and 1 sit down, which is the Bout Time. And then above the 2 takeout restaurants, there will be an office space. Bout Time is taking up 2 stories. They do meet the parking requirement. So after further discussion and further clarification, this is an update to the parking table, and they meet the parking requirement. And then the open space, they can meet the open space. So the site itself is short. However, here's an aerial of the project. You can see large green areas in the middle. Those are detention basins. So all of the sites that have been built on so far have met the landscape requirement. Legends did use the detention area to meet the requirement, and they're requesting the same for Bout Time, that existing landscaping that hasn't been counted for other projects be counted for this project to meet their landscaping. So staff does support that request. They did send us a table to show how they were meeting that. We do want to review these numbers further. However, even if these numbers change a bit, we're confident they can meet the requirement that way. And then, so staff does recommend approval of both items with the conditions in the staff report and the information presented tonight related to landscaping and parking.
Thank you, Sarah. Would the applicant like to add anything?
I think this one I'm going to be pretty quiet on. We're just excited to be able to get these businesses in here and bring some more restaurant and retail right here next to the city offices.
Okay. Nicolette, she doesn't have to state her address again, right? No, okay. Excellent. Just want to make sure I wasn't dropping the ball. Sarah, did you have something else?
Yeah, on the conditions in the staff report, 2A has been addressed. It doesn't have to be within the lot area. It can be within the existing development. And then the parking has also been addressed, that they had combined their 2 takeouts into 1 total on their table. And so it looked like they had 1 larger restaurant instead of 2 takeout restaurants. And now that we've clarified that, they do meet the parking standards. So we can strike 2A and 2B.
Okay. Commissioner Barton is first, so I'll let her go.
I just had a question about the whole bar and grill thing when it comes to, because I know they wanted to put one in by Smith's. They wouldn't let them because the residents across the street. What's the code on that?
Oh, there is, so a lot of that.
Because this is closer than that even as to those residents that were across from Smith's, across Redwood Road.
680 feet.
Sorry, I don't know.
It was in our packet.
It's actually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually a state code.
Okay.
And they do have to get their liquor license with the state, and they have the state's requirements. So that's not in
That's a
the
state
Toga
code.
code, but they won't get their state license unless they meet that requirement. So I don't know the difference between this and the other one.
That's what I'm wondering about, because I know that was even farther, and so I just wasn't sure. And maybe,
Yeah,
honestly,
it is
look.
600 feet.
It is. I guess just looking at it with my eye, it looks like.
There are different categories as well in state code, depending on how much
The
food
bar and
versus
grill.
how much alcohol makes up their sales. So there's different categories, and I don't know the state code well enough to tell you the difference.
No, that's great. I knew there was an issue when it came out to one by Smith's, and so I couldn't remember what that was, so thank you.
So, did you need to say something?
Just for clarification, they applied for their alcohol permit with the state. They started that process over a year ago.
Okay.
So,
Does it take a year to get it?
yeah, it's taken, yep. And they only issue so many permits per year, so it's a pretty tough process.
Okay, Commissioner
Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Okay, so, okay, I just have, sorry, I'm not ready. On page, well, that doesn't matter, I guess. Oh, yeah, okay, under the code review in the packet, under additional recommendations, it's highlighted, critical issues to address 6-inch PI line requirement. And why was that highlighted, and is that an issue or is it something we don't have to worry about?
It's not something the planning commission needs to worry about. It's a city standard and an engineering standard that the applicant needs to work out with engineering.
Okay. And then also can complies for the front, corner, interior side, and rear setbacks? Is that something that's determined later?
Oh, good question. So my understanding is that they meet the setbacks.
They do meet the setbacks?
Yeah, there was some debate on lot size, but they have left that as you're seeing it. So my understanding is that let me get to that really quick though, so I can see exactly what you're talking about. You said in the checklist, right?
Yeah. Under code review, it does say to be determined with site plans on lots 5 and 8, which are adjacent. I mean, it does say to be determined.
So those
but-
are for the other lots that we're not seeing the site plan for. So those
Okay.
will be determined in the future with those site plan applications.
All right, just want to make sure. And then you said the parking requirement's no longer a problem, right? Therefore, it's no longer does not comply. How about the required landscaping?
And that has been addressed also
Yes, okay.
by using existing landscaping within the development.
Okay, what about lighting fixtures can comply?
That does still need to be addressed, so they'll have to resubmit the lighting information too. Our concern is the height of the lighting. So some plans showed 16 feet and some plans didn't. We think it's been resolved, but we like that condition to make sure that it's going to be met.
Okay, any issues for the applicant you anticipate for that? Okay, thank you. How about, it says does not comply for data table? This is page 23. I think it's just
It's for the plat. So, and that's something we always double check as they proceed in the process. So we still have a final plat that we'll look at and we'll check for that there as well.
Okay, and then for site and architectural standards, a number of can complies.
Yeah, and all of those can be met. Ashley, do you have any concerns with any of those?
I don't think so. I just switched pages up.
Well, it's in the checklist. It's,
Page 20, well, page 26, as far as the staff packet goes.
I don't foresee anything. If it's not anything different than what we've been discussing, Sarah, then we're fine.
Okay.
so the stairway, the outdoor
That was my next one.
stairway is subject to approval by the land use authority. There's not any criteria in the code. It just says that it's up to the planning commission.
Okay, so I thought there was something in the code, I mean, very minimal, but it said that outdoor stairways for use by customers are okay, but the second, or you have 2 stairways, outdoor stairway requests, and one is just simply, it looks like an entryway, and there's not a public use for it. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
No, that can be used for public use as well. We just kind of pulled it out because we thought it helped balance out the building and created some symmetry with the other one, and so we just kind of liked the look. So yeah, that can be used as a public use. We do have 2 different stairwells that people can come in and out of.
So by public use, you mean you're going to have tables on that little landing?
No, that's why we're asking for the, what's the word? Exception or variance on that, just to pull that out and be able to go use it as well. So there is just a stairwell up into that 2nd story space.
Okay.
No, that's for the other one. So Bout Time, they have one internal.
Could you show, Sarah, could you show a
Okay.
picture?
I think staff was confused. I thought that that was for Bout Time. What is the outdoor stairwell for?
So I have two. So the one with is About Time where it kind of hooks onto that outdoor patio. And then if you go to the other elevation, there's the second one that kind of leads into this outdoor office space right here.
Do they have another way in?
Yeah, they have another little main entrance on the first floor in between Bout Time and the second story that will go up as well. So it's right here in the middle.
So for those of us that are mobility challenged, there's going to be an elevator inside?
So this is it complies with ADA status as it's less than the required square footage for an elevator
Okay.
spot.
Okay, that was one of my questions, is ADA compliant, but, okay, so you have, here's my understanding, and please fix it if it's wrong. You have one what do they call it? Outdoor stairway that leads to a patio area that customers sit and dine as well. And on the other side of the building, you have another outdoor stairway that's really basically it goes to a landing and then an entry on the second floor.
Yes.
Okay. So customers don't enter the.
Turn all the mics off and then. Can we switch him to Commissioner Anderson's mic? Okay.
And then, okay, and then you said that the main entrance is not the stairway, because I can't tell where the entrance is on that picture. The main entrance for the restaurant.
Other page. So you see where the smaller sign is, where the outdoor patio is, where it's
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
that's the whole Bout Time space. There's that door next to the right of it. That's the second entrance up to that second story space. And then it moves into the two other tenant spots that way.
Okay. Oh, shoot, I had the code for that stairway up, but I think it's actually in the staff packet.
Yeah, it's in the staff packet.
Can you find it faster than me? Because it was, I mean, when I saw it, I thought, okay, there's got to be more than just what was written in the staff packet, but I actually looked at the code, and that was really it. So
Right.
that's right, that's what it was, yeah.
Stairways, number 4, this one here. So
Yeah, I think you took the whole thing, because there wasn't any. You did
there's no criteria.
Yeah,
It
other
just-
than, but it does say, though, that the stairway needs to lead to a publicly used space,
Yeah.
right? Usable outdoor area. So I think the one for the patio
one.
totally works. But the other one, at least as far as an outdoor stairway, is unless we request an exception, which I guess that's what the applicant's doing.
Well, I don't know that this allows for an exception. So it allows you, let's see. Shall be located within the building unless otherwise approved for the land use authority for secondary access to outdoor patio decks or other usable outdoor area. So there's not an exception.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. I understand the aesthetic reason for trying to balance it on the building, but from the way the building looked, at least from the picture and such, I don't think that balance is necessary, I mean, as far as the aesthetics go. So if that's the case, then the code clearly says that that's not an approved use for an outdoor stairway. And that's why, that's the only real issue I have. Otherwise, I think the other stairway's fine, especially I think it's a great idea to have that patio outdoor area. So that's the conditions does say something about the planning commission to make a recommendation on that request. So that's at least my thoughts on it. And then I also wanted to ask, okay, you told me about the ADA. Since we're doing both, the tag and go is a administrative process. So does the applicant agree to complete?
Yeah,
I
that's,
thought you did. I thought you
Tag
did
and go
both.
separate. This
that's
is,
one other item.
Sorry.
yeah, so this is preliminary plat for that whole area and then the site plan for Bout Time, which is lot 6. with
Oh, okay.
that.
All right. So sorry, got that confused. That's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Kilgore. Commissioner Ryan, did you, for some reason I had your mic on too? That's because Commissioner Kilgore. Okay. Commissioner McConkey.
So we're looking at the site plan on this one, is that?
So this motion is for both, so it's two separate actions occurring because
Okay. Yeah.
you're the land use authority for the site plan, but for the preliminary plat, it's the council, so you'd be making a recommendation.
Okay, so I'm going to combine my comments a little bit too then. So as far as the site plan goes, I'm slightly concerned about the access on the, is it the south side? I'm looking on page C1.1. We got that triangle right there
Oh, yes.
drawn. Is that an in and out? It just seems to me that that might be with that peninsula right there at the peak of that triangle. Is the location. I recognize it's directly across from the private drive, but that seems that it would be a very awkward and maybe somewhat of a treacherous in and out with drive-through traffic coming out at the same time as other traffic trying to exit that parking lot. That makes sense. And that's probably my only concern as far as the site plan. I would agree with Commissioner Kilgore that the second stairway does not comply with the ordinance. And yeah, I had the same thing. I have right here, what does JDH stand for?
That's the name of the owner, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just the owner
Okay.
of the parcel. Well, I'm just kind of talking, Sarah. When we worked with Tippy, there was an exception in the code that allowed us to request for that exterior stairwell. I'm just trying to find the reference for it.
Oh, we had that up a second ago.
Okay.
And that was so we just